just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet. Baying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your host on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
And how are we doing out there all across this great land and around the world? Coast to coast, you're coming live. We're coming live to you right now. I am your host, John Matthews. You are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. We're glad you joined us on our very last broadcast for 2015. And we're going to end the year on a humorous note in some regards and a serious note on others. We're going to be finishing up our top 10 quotes for the years. Actually, we started out last night with our top 10 liberal quotes, but as I explained, we expanded it to the top 20 because this year we did something different. We finally have conceded the fact that the Republican Party and the Democrat Party are two sides of the same coin. So we had to give equal time. Our own fairness doctrine, that's our version of the fairness doctrine, is that we combined Rhino quotes for the year and liberal progressive quotes for the year. And Don Dix from Act for America joined me last night as we did the first 10 from number 20 down to number 11 on our list of progressive quotes. And then we're going to embark on the top 10 liberal quotes for 2015. In the second hour, Karen Sigmund from Rage Against the Media will be joining us, and by then we should be into our top 10 conservative quotes for 2015. So that's how we're going to go out the year. We're going to finish the year out with a bang and just kind of recap in some regards. We're going to comment on some of these quotes just in light of some of them were lead-ins to stories or studies or series that we did on specific topics this year. One of the things we did and decided to do this year on the Conservative Syndicate is to exhaust topics. So that means we took an issue or a topic and just went as far as we could with it based on whatever information we were able to gather while it was still a newsworthy event. Of course, that's very difficult to do today because the news changes so fast. And what is hot today is dead tomorrow. What's not even on the radar today is hot tomorrow. And so we try to keep things in context. But sometimes we hit on an issue like the baby harvesting at Planned Parenthood and some of the other things that have taken place during the year, and just went as far as we could with the topics or issues. And so some of these quotes deal with those issues, and it's just reiterating what we were saying, or giving us the opportunity to maybe update a little bit on whatever particular issues these quotes came from or whatever issues generated these quotes. So that's what we hope to do for you tonight. I wanted to once again just send our prayers and well wishes out to my co-host Joe Hakos, who's been under the weather all week. Told him to take the week off. He was not feeling good. And since it's the end of the year, we're going to be gearing up for the 2016 election. Just hit the floor running next week. So just, hey, Joe, take the week off and recover and recuperate and do what you have to do. We love you. Well wishes to you and your family for this holiday season. And Joe will be back with us next week, I'm sure. Now, let's see what else is going on there. I was just kind of scanning cyberspace as I came on tonight because I don't like to just launch into something. I got to kind of warm up a little bit. So I look for things out there that are worth spending 5 to 10 minutes talking about. And here I'm noticing here that, well, I guess Bill Cosby has finally been arraigned for sexual assault charges. I've never been able to quite grasp how much of these charges or allegations are true and how much are not. I think that in some regards there has been a little bit of a conspiracy, for lack of a better word, to paint this man as something other than what he may be. I don't know. He could be everything that these allegations make him out to be. But knowing how the media is, one thing about Cosby you have to understand is he is not what you call a Black Lives Matter sympathist. He's one of these people that, he came up in the age of racism. He came up in the entertainment industry at a time when being black was not real popular or profitable. And with the likes of people like Lena Horne and Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier and people like that, he came up in that time and rose above his circumstances and became very prosperous, very famous, very rich, and in a lot of ways very respected. But here he is now being arraigned on sexual assault charges, and I just find it a rather sad commentary that we're able to resurrect circumstances and stuff in such a way to make something look perhaps just a little bit more dark-sided than it may actually be. I don't know. It could just be my bias for the guy, that I like the guy. I always thought he was a good actor, a great comedian. And, and it's like all of us, as we get older, you become somewhat of a philosopher when you look at what's going on around you and how it's affecting your children and grandchildren. So it's going to be interesting. I just think it's interesting that this is one of those things that just nobody will let die. And it's just a testimony as to what's going on in our country with all the political correctness and all the targeting of individuals that don't line up and adhere or submit or surrender to the progressive narrative. And it's just sad. It's just sad, one way or the other. However it turns out, I don't know. But it's just a sad testimony of what's going on out there. Of course, then we have the media out there right now, playing up the people, to me, that shouldn't even be here. And we got Michael Moore out there coming out with yet another movie about yet another problem with America. And this guy's not even an American citizen, and he's making more movies about how bad America is than anybody else, and getting praises, and everybody just thinks this guy's God's gift to socialism and progressivism and everything else. He's an ass and an idiot in by every definition, the meaning of the word. And I guess he's coming out now with a movie about gun control and violence and occupation. I think the name of the movie is something like "Who do we invade next?" Like you're part of the United States. Who do we invade next? That kind of thing. I saw something on the other day that I thought was a rather interesting quote by gentleman Mark Shaw with the Restore America Together network. And he said, when we talk about gun violence, the term gun violence, just think about that for a minute, gun violence, and we talk about gun violence in America, it's like, why don't we talk about that? Why isn't that phrase used with other sorts of violence? Why isn't it knife violence? Or why isn't it, different types of violence that's out there? Why is that brand not put on all that type of violence, if you're smothered with a pillow, I think somebody suggested, if you smother somebody with a pillow, is that pillow violence? How it is that the left is able to do this? They're able to brand a particular issue the way that they want it. For instance, I was thinking about climate change and global warming. Remember when it was global warming? The Earth was burning up and we were all going to fry, and the polar bears were going to drown because all the icebergs were gone. And when all of a sudden, when it kicked into reverse, we had things like El Nino come along, or like the last few years where we've had record cold throughout the world. In the United States, snow at unmeasured levels before. Then it went from global warming to climate change because it was more appropriate to be able to keep the hoax up without entitling it or labeling it something that could be argued. the one thing I guess I would say as we leave this year is that let's hope next year that conservatism has some people that can rise up and in the mainstream have the influence and the publicity necessary to take control of the narrative, because the narrative is everything in America today. It doesn't matter whether it's truth or factual or anything else. It's just you control the narrative, you control the conversation. So having said that, we're going to go to our first break. When we come back, we'll get into finish up our top liberal progressive quotes for 2015. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by CitizensUnited.org.
Hey, and we're back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos, who's off this week. He'll be back next week, I'm sure, with us, and glad to have you with us tonight. Let's get into our top, the remainder of our top quotes for 2015, progressive quotes, or as I titled it yesterday, progressive/rhino quotes, because we did something different this year. Rather than do what the media does, and that is to just kind of blend all Republicans together as conservatives when they're talking about them in the media, when it's expeditious for them, when it's advantageous for them to group us all together and refer to us as conservatives. They like to do that. The media loves to do that. The left loves to do it. And I thought, we got to break that habit or that trend, because there's so much of what goes on in the Republican Party today that does not have any resemblance whatsoever with conservatism. And so I broke it down that way, and so I had to increase the list. as I refer to it as our fairness doctrine. You know, that's one of the things the liberals always say. Conservative talk radio, you guys have monopolized the airways, and you don't give other people a fair shot. Well, we're giving you a fair shot. We're equal opportunity bashers here at the Conservative Syndicate. So, as from last night, I had Don Dix with Act for America with us, and he helped me through about 5 of the 10. In the first hour, I did 5 by myself, and then Don came on the second hour, and we did another 5. And just a real quick recap of what we did yesterday. At number 20 of our top liberal rhino quotes for 2015 was Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice, admitting that she was not 100% sober at Barack Obama's State of the Union message in February earlier this year. She had had some wine, at least a glass, maybe a couple of glasses of wine during a dinner that was hosted by Justice Anthony Kennedy. And the meal was so great, she felt she needed some wine. She drank some wine, and at 81 years old, I guess it caused her to doze off during the message. So she said, at least I wasn't 100% sober. At number 19 was none other than Kanye West, who by today, I guess, was selected by Gentleman Quarterly, GQ magazine, as the most stylish man in America. And at number 19, he said at the Video Music Awards this year that he, as you probably could have guessed by this moment, I have decided in 2020 to run for president. And I just asked you, our listeners, imagine Kanye West in the White House in 2020 or 2021. Gets elected in 2020, gets inaugurated in 2021. Just imagine Kanye West and his Compass-named children and Kim Kardashian running around the White House. Boy, that would be something to witness, would it not be? Number 18 was scientific studies indicate the most global warming in recent decades is due to the great concentration of greenhouse gases released mainly as a result of human activity. And that came from Pope Francis in his encyclical letter on June 18th of this year. Pope Francis reiterating that climate change is man-made, caused by excessive greenhouse gases. And we were asking the question, does he mean that there's too many human beings breathing? And if so, why does he still oppose abortion? Number 17 was, well, the two big differences is one, and this is a response by Paris Hilton during the Miss Universe pageant that just took place a couple weeks ago. And he was asked about the difference between judging Miss USA and Miss Universe. And he said, well, there's two big differences. A lot more people are watching Miss Universe. And number 2, thankfully, Donald Trump no longer owns this pageant. The man who was picked by Donald Trump to be a judge at the Miss America, I guess, likes to bite the hand that feeds him. Of course, what would you expect from a genderqueer like Perez Hilton? Number 16, what the F is that? I hate Americans and I hate America. That was Ariana Grande in July of this year after hurling an obscenity at a baker who replaced the donuts she had licked and placed back on a tray at a bakery. Apparently she was offended that this man thought the donuts needed to be replaced with non-germ carrying items. And she made a remark about hating America. Of course, she tried to walk it back, spent a couple of weeks trying to walk it back. But, you know, out of the abundance of the mouth, the heart speaks, they say. Number 15 was in Florida, they call me Jeb because I earned it. They call me Vito Corleone. And then veto was spelled with a V-E-T-O, not V-I-T-O. The idea being that he was so conservative. Jeb Bush tried to kill two birds with one stone with this quote. In Florida, they call me Jeb because I earned it. What he was trying to say there is, I'm not my brother. I'm not my father. Yeah, I'm a Bush, but I'm my own man. And they call me Vito Corleone, meaning veto like veto bills, because he claims, Jeb Bush claimed to be a very conservative governor in Florida. Of course, we know that somewhere along the line he lost sight of that, and that speaks for itself. Here he's down at the 2 or 3% in popularity polls in the presidential run. In fact, I was reading an article last night where they were talking about the 5 remaining candidates come February who the press is thinking are going to be the 5 remaining candidates. And they mentioned the ones that are going to be dropping out. Jeb Bush and John Kasich weren't even mentioned in the article, whether they didn't even talk about them being in the race or being out of the race. They weren't even mentioned. That's how much influence Jeb Bush has on the Republican electorate. Number 14 went to John Kasich. Let's start off with my father being a mailman, which was a response to a question as to how he was going to debate Clinton, or how would he debate Clinton, because they both are people that are considered to be wealthy. And how is he going to talk about the middle class? He said, well, let's start off with my father being a mailman. And I guess that meant something to somebody, perhaps his father. Number 13 was, well, I agree. That went to John Kasich also. Well, I agree that we should defund Planned Parenthood. I don't know many people in America who don't think that we should. And in my state, we're trying to figure out how to get it done because we are threatened with the federal government taking all of our Medicaid money away. John Kasich pointing to the very thing that we on this show and other shows like us talk about all the time in terms of the Republican Party. The idea that they preach small government but are just as concerned as liberals are when it comes to taking away federal money that subsidizes programs within their states. And he's worried about having to give up federal money in order to defund Planned Parenthood, and he just can't reconcile those two things. That's why he made this list. There's your rhino for you right there. Perfect example. Number 12 went to Kevin McCarthy, the guy that everybody thought was going to be the heir apparent for John Boehner when he announced his retirement. He went around and actually became a victim of Joe Biden disease, foot and mouth disease. Went out and said everybody thought Hillary Clinton was unbeatable, but we put together a Benghazi special committee, a select committee, and what are her numbers today? Which just before the Benghazi hearings took place, he comes out and says something so audaciously stupid. And we talked about last night whether or not that this actually neutralized anything that Trey Gowdy was trying to accomplish when Hillary Clinton came before the committee to testify. Because what they basically did is gave the media free-for-all, and the accusations and allegations were, of course, that it was all Benghazi. The committee was all about nailing Hillary Clinton and keeping her out of the 2016 presidential race. Number 11, we ended with Cecile Richards, the head of Planned Parenthood, claiming or complaining that people just don't understand liberal speak well enough. She says, I do think it's time for people in this country, elected officials, leaders, people who want to be president of the United States, to really think carefully about the way they talk about health care providers in this country, alluding to the belief that Planned Parenthood is a health care provider. They're not a health care provider. They are a health care reference service. They talk about doing mammograms. They don't do mammograms. They refer people to places that do mammograms. Their services that they provide, abortion, the largest abortion provider in the country, but it's been grouped and labeled as women's health care. She goes on to say the way they demonize women and the decisions they make about their pregnancies, meaning that there's many who just think women just don't know, or women are wrong for making decisions about their pregnancies. I think it's time for everyone to take stock of that, because I do believe words have consequences. An allusion to doublespeak, liberal doublespeak. When they talk about women's health care, they're talking about abortion and contraception. When we talk about it, we talk about women's health. Not abortion and not contraception. Those are choices. Those are not health care issues. Those are women's choices. When we think about women's health care, I think about breast cancer, uterus cancer, lung cancer, all the things that happen to all of us, whether women or men. Okay, so that went to Cecile Richards. Now that rounds out our first top 10 that we did yesterday. A quick review there. Okay, let me get into number 10. Number 10, we're back talking about the rhinos here. This is a very, I find, I think out of most of the quotes that I quoted coming from moderate Republicans, this one probably bothered me the most in some ways. This comes from Republican Representative Lance Clow from Idaho. And apparently in an intense debate taking place in Twin Falls, Idaho, like a town hall or something like that, there was this big debate an intense debate going on about the Syrian refugees being allowed to come into the country. And he said, Representative Lance Clow said, I think that refugees are pretty well vetted, probably more vetted than average people coming into the country with foreign passports. I think if terrorists want to come into our country, there's a lot better ways than coming through the refugee program. Think about that for a minute. The big thing is that there is no vetting process for refugees. There is no vetting process. We found out now that's what Obama was telling us in his Syrian refugee program. We're going to bring over 10,000, and then that number's increased. Who knows what the end result could be or will be should he continue to get his way. But the idea that here we have a representative so ignorant of the fact that there is no vetting that he's saying they're probably vetted better than everybody else. Well, on this show, what we did an in-depth study of the vetting process, quote unquote, of how these people are vetted and how they're interviewed and where they go. And it's just simple things like asking them if they're terrorists. Are you a terrorist? Have you ever been a terrorist? Do you plan to conduct terrorist activities? Do you know anybody that's a terrorist? And if people answered no to these questions, then there was no quote-unquote red flags raised. This is what came up in the Syrian the shooting out here in San Bernardino just a few weeks ago. Is we find out that these questions were asked of this couple, this woman coming over here from Pakistan on a fiance passport. And she was asked these questions, and officials are saying, well, she answered the questions, and we had no reason to think otherwise. And yet we have somebody serving in the House of Representatives in Idaho making a statement that he believes that these refugees are vetted much better than regular people coming in on passports. What a crock. What a crock. Number 9. We're going to go to, actually, what I think I'm going to do here, I'm going to save number 9 until after the break here. We're going to coming up on a break here. But just think about that. Just say, this is why we complain as much as we do. These are the things that we're trying to point out to you, the listening public and voting public, as to why you need to vote. It's because we keep having people like Lance Clow elected to the House of Representatives ignorant of what's going on, ignorant of their constituencies, the security of their constituencies, ignorant of what their job is in terms of protecting the Constitution of the United States of America and the people they represent. The refugees are being vetted more thoroughly than anybody else coming into this country. Hogwash. In the words of Ebenezer Scrooge, humbug. We got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll continue our top liberal quotes for 2015. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment, and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers. If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
And we are back. And you are indeed listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from Real Conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with my co-host, Joe Hakos, who's off this week. Should be back with us, rested and rosy, come next week. And just took the week off. Wasn't feeling good at the beginning of the week and said, hey, Joe, just take the week off. He's done so much for me this year, covered for me in several instances at the last minute and was able to take the show and carry it for me. He's just he's been a real friend and comrade in arms, if I can coin that phrase without sounding like a Bernie Sanders supporter. Okay, so we are talking about, or we are listing our top liberal quotes for the year. And just before the break, I had listed Lance Clow, Representative Lance Clow, Republican representative of Twin Falls, at a Twin Falls town hall meeting. He represents Idaho, in which he seemed to believe that refugees are vetted better than average people coming into the country with foreign passports. And, of course, everything we learned right after the San Bernardino shooting out here is that the vetting process that takes place with refugees coming into the country is pretty much non-existent. It is mostly being interviewed and asked questions about what your intent to come to the United States is about. Are you a terrorist? Have you ever conducted terrorist activities? Do you know any terrorists? Do you plan on conducting terrorist activities? Things like that. And if you answered no to all those questions, then apparently no red flags are raised and you are given refugee status. That's how well our vetting process is. And we have this government trying to convince us that they're going to do everything they can. Of course, we covered that in depth this year on the show and talked about the fact that the State Department has conceded their methods, quote unquote, need to be changed, need to be reviewed. After saying that they're constantly changing and constantly reviewing, all of a sudden, there's need to be some changes because it came to light. The simple things like checking out somebody's Facebook page could tell you what their intent is when they get here. But because of privacy issues, isn't it amazing? Privacy issues are a big deal to liberals when it involves or risks revealing something they don't want you to know. But if an average citizen who believes in gun ownership says something, then everybody wants to say, hey, look at them on Facebook. Look what they're saying on Twitter. Yeah, these people are domestic terrorists. They're the worst that America has to offer. We need to control them. We need to control the guns. We need to control everything. That's the hypocrisy of the whole thing. So I'm at number 9 now. Number 9 comes from none other than Hillary Clinton. She made our list a couple of times this year. You'll notice on my list I left out Barack Obama. To me, Barack Obama is irrelevant. He's irrelevant. Now, he's going to continue to throw his crap against the wall, but he's irrelevant in my mind, so I'm not even going to give him the time of day. But Hillary Clinton is on the list. She's on the list because, of course, at this point, she is the Democratic nominee for president next year. At this point. I don't know what's going to happen down the road here, but at this point, we're going to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm a progressive, she says, but I'm a progressive who likes to get things done. See, she's finally acknowledging who she really is. She's always tried to play herself as a centralist. And I guess she learned from Barack Obama that portraying yourself as a centralist or as a pragmatic, as somebody who's pragmatic in your views, or a populist, as her husband did, is the way to go. But, once it's all out in the open, Barack Obama brought this all out in the open, and now she knows in order to even have a snowflake's chance in hell of making it, she has to appeal to the base that Barack Obama created, that government-dependent base, that the people that are out there that are so socioeconomically and racially and gender-wise just been discriminated, have been isolated by all the hard-hitting, Bible-thumping, racist white people that control the Republican Party. So she's selling herself now as a progressive. She never would have used that label. She didn't use that label in 2008. She's using it now because it's all out in the open. Hey, it worked. It got Barack Obama in, got him 2 terms. So now I guess she can use it. But this was her response when CNN moderator Anderson Cooper at one of the Democratic debates, one of the 3 Democrat debates that took place, asked about whether she leans moderate or progressive. See, she's always tried, up until this point, up until she entered this race, she was always trying to play herself as a moderate. Now she's in the race, and she knows that the strategy of the DNC is to use the popularity, not the job effectiveness, but the popularity of Barack Obama, and use that to try to bring in Obama version 3.0 in the form of Hillary Clinton. She'll be our first female black president, seeing as she's the wife of America's first real black president, Bill Clinton. And so she's using that now to her advantage. She no longer hides behind the moderate label. She's now out in the open. But she's a progressive that likes to get things done. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that other progressives don't get things done? Does that mean that Barack Obama, as a progressive, didn't get anything done? I think it can be argued that Barack Obama has probably accomplished more than many, many presidents in the past 50, 60 years. In terms of getting what he wanted done, he's done one heck of a job. You got to give him that. Whether you like what he's done is not the issue. His ability to get it done, either whether it's through bullying or bribery or blackmailing, all those things I think happen. I'm one of these people that believes John Roberts has been siding with the liberals because there's some dirt on him or somebody in his family. And he's been blackmailed into going along with the liberal doctrine. But that said, she's now out in the open as progressive. But she's one that gets things done. She said that she leans left, but she works with both sides of the aisle to see progressive legislation come through. See, yeah, I'm a progressive, but I'm a progressive that likes to get things done because I'm a progressive that can work with both sides of the aisle to get progressive legislation through. Well, there is some validity to that also when you consider the fact the Republicans just bend over and take it in the rear every time there's any type of legislation brought before them. They squawk and they scream, and this is not conservatism. We want small government, and then they bend over and take it and go ahead and do what they want to do. So that's Hillary Clinton at number 9. I'm a progressive, but I'm a progressive who likes to get things done. Now, number 8, we're back to the rhinos. This is an interesting quote, and I think one that's very worth taking a moment to look at. Marco Rubio, in response to Greta Van Susteren after the last GOP debate, you'll remember what happened shortly after that debate is that, let's see, what was it? Let's see here. Hang on one second here. Just hang on one second here because I got Karen Sigmund in here. She's supposed to be with us the second hour. She's wanting to come on right now. I'm going to tell her right now. Just give me a second. Bear with me, folks, while I answer her. She's asking, hey, do you want me to come in? Yeah, let's do this. Okay, hang on. 1, 2, 3. All right. And let's reply. Okay, we did it. All right, she should be calling in any second here. But now back to Marco Rubio. Shortly after, I think it was it shortly after. Let's see. Let me get back to my notes here. Here we go. Okay, this Greta Van Susteren. Okay, well, here was the situation. The situation is very simple. Marco Rubio missed the vote, the latest vote. I believe it was after the debate. And you'll remember in that debate, Rubio was confronted by Jeb Bush about his lack of attendance at votes and things like that. So, having said all that, he defended it. He defended as to why he wasn't voting and this, that, and the other. And so, shortly after the last Republican debate, of course, they voted on the omnibus spending bill. And Greta Van Susteren confronted Marco Rubio as to why he missed that vote. And Rubio's response was, I'm running for president, so this doesn't happen again. What he basically was saying was, I didn't show up to vote. He goes on to explain that the thing was a foregone deal. It wasn't worth showing up and voting on because it was already done. It was a done deal. And he's running for president so that we don't have something like this happen again, where we have a bill rammed down our throats, I believe is the word he was using. And just tried to justify not showing up. But there's something you really need to understand here. Since January of 2011, Rubio has missed 147 votes out of 1,482. Now, you think that's not a lot of votes to miss. But according to governmenttrack.us, he is the leader and the worst voting attendance for any senator for this year, meaning 2015. Apparently, running for president means he doesn't have to be a senator anymore. I guess, and since he's not running for re-election as senator, I guess he just kind of chalked it all up and said, it is what it is. But it could also, I just want to bring up this point here, it can also, the fact that he's missed so many votes has skewed his number as a conservative voter. Now, let me explain what I'm saying here. He has, according to Conservative Review, a 70% conservative voting record. Now, people would think, in light of, compare that to somebody like a John Boehner or Mitch McConnell, which is down around 30 and 40%, respectively. They're not conservative, so they don't vote conservatively. But Rubio, by not showing up, his vote never gets counted, so it could make him look like he's voting more conservative, when in fact what it is, he's not voting at all. And so it makes him look more conservative as he is. And because of these numbers, there's a lot of conservatives that have been duped into thinking that Marco Rubio wouldn't be that bad of a candidate. You know, he wouldn't be Bush 3.0. Well, the only difference being is that Bush 3.0 would vote, or has voted, or did vote, or ran when he ran as governor, when he was a governor and everything else. But Rubio, for a one-term senator, has not done very well in terms of turning up when he's supposed to turn up and representing his constituency. So I think he's more qualified to take maybe Mitch McConnell's job of voting when it's politically expedient one way or the other, knowing if I vote conservative, I get counted as a conservative vote, but I know I'm not going to win anyway because the majority is going to overrule my voting, or voting with the liberals so that he can, quote unquote, come back and bring the issue up another day. So that I just want to bring that to your attention here. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, I've got Karen Sigmund waiting in the wings here from Rage Against the Media. We got to do a quick commercial here. We'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. And we are back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with my co-host, Joe Hakos, who is off this week. He'll be back next week with us, rested up and ready to go. Wasn't feeling good earlier part of the week. I just told him take the week off where I can handle this. He did such a good job this year so many times covering for me. I thought, hey, give the guy some time off. You know, he deserves it. Having said that, I have Karen Sigmund from Rage Against the Media with us, and I know she's been biting at the bit to do something like this for a while. How are you doing tonight, Karen?
I'm wonderful. Thank you. How are you doing?
All right. We are in we're at number 7 here in our top 20 liberal quotes for the year. I had to expand it because I put the rhinos in with the liberals this year. I couldn't see any difference between them, and I thought, well, let's give them equal time. Our version of fairness doctrine here at the Conservative Syndicate is that we're equal opportunity bashers. So I combined them, and I'm at number 7 right now. I was just talking about Marco Rubio's voting record. I know you caught the tail end of that. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, yes, I get about missing votes, but apparently, and even Breitbart had an article, so if Breitbart said something positive about Rubio, you know it's got to be true, because they are one of the biggest Rubio bashers out there. apparently the vote had been scheduled for later, but they moved it up so that people could leave for Christmas earlier. And Rubio had called and begged and pleaded and emailed and said, please don't do that. I'm away. I want to be there for the vote. He had planned to filibuster, which is what a lot of them were talking about doing. He had wanted to stand up against it, and they did not hold it when it was originally planned. He originally had scheduled to be there, but they changed the time of it. We can believe that or not believe that, whatever. But Breitbart put that out there. I tend to believe it just because they're so virulently anti-Rubio. The other thing is, yes, I know Conservative Review has him at 79, but Heritage has him at 94.
Oh, okay. But again, I'd have to counter with this. If that was the situation, and we would have no reason to doubt that Breitbart would not, be speaking the truth, why could not have Rubio responded that way when he was asked why he didn't show up?
I think he also did respond that way when he was asked why he didn't show up. And then another part is, it was preordained, but he had asked to have it be later. And because there was a cadre who was going to stand up against it. Apparently that cadre opted not to stand up against it. So maybe that whole part became moot. And so his reason for, arguing for them not to delay it became moot because nobody else was going to stand up against it. Is he going to do what he can to fight against these preordained things? I imagine so, as others will. It wasn't, and truly, in fairness, was it even close? No, it was not. And nobody stood up against it. Was it the right thing to do? I don't know. But the last thing you want is to shut the government down before Christmas. We saw a government closure a couple of years ago, and while that may or may not have had a deleterious effect, I don't know. Some people say yes, some people say no, but nor was it right before Christmas. So should he have been there? Yes. Should the vote have been, not moved up? If I were him, I would have been pretty pissed if they moved it and I was planning to be there and they made it so I couldn't be there.
Well, I personally, and from my perspective, hearing that, I would say, okay, you've got a valid excuse. I have to question because everything in the exchange that he gave with Greta Van Susteren, there was no mention of that. It was already predetermined and it was already shoved down our throat. There wasn't anything. It was the same. It was basically the same talking point that Paul Ryan gave. Is that there wasn't anything I could really do to stop this, and so it just went the wayside. We just did it. That to me, I would have had much more respect if he said something like that. If he did, I didn't find that recorded anywhere or documented anywhere. What I saw was already predetermined. I'm running for president so that we don't have to do this again. So it could be. It could very well be. Yeah. I also know, too, though, as far as voting records, he is the worst, but Cruz is up there as well. So if we are going to use that as a metric, then... Well, I think with Rubio in this instance here is that he's put all his eggs in one basket. He's determined he's not going to run for re-election as a senator. He's putting everything into running for president. And there is a certain logic to that. I mean, it's not that I wouldn't, that I can just say, hey, okay, fine, you're a jerk for not doing your job. If you've determined that, okay, this is where I need to go and everything else. Again, my only issue is not being forthright with why you're doing certain things. And when it has to be questioned by somebody, it puts you in a bad light, whether your answers are justifiable or not. That's where I'm at. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so it's just like, if you say, look, I'm not going to run for re-election. We all know what's going on. We all know McConnell's going to cave. We all know that the House isn't going to change under Paul Ryan. I'm putting all my eggs in one basket. I'm running for president, hoping I can do something at that level that I can't do at this level. I think most of us will look at that and go, no, that's a feasible argument. But to not say anything and then have to be confronted and then have to try to come up with some type of answer, to me, that's indicative of the type of leadership that he would provide. That's my big issue with it.
Yep. Yeah, so, no, I get that. But incidentally, the vote absentee voters, Rubio is number one, as you said, having missed 30%. Lindsey Graham is number two with 24%. Mm-hmm. Ted Cruz is third with 22%.
Wow. In terms of what? Conservative voting?
No. Voting. Attending.
Oh, okay. Well, I've actually talked about Ted Cruz being guilty of the same thing.
Yes, right.
But this really backs up my argument. Let's just take just a moment here on this. This really backs up my argument and contention that I've been making throughout the year, that if a man or woman is holding a federal office like the House of Representatives or Senate, they should not be allowed to run for another office until their time in that office is finished. If I was going to try to fix anything, it's the idea that we've got 3 senators now. Is it 3? It might be 4. 3 senators running for president. And it's affected all of them in terms of their job as senators representing their states. And what happens if Rubio's not running for re-election? Let's say Ted Cruz wins the nomination. That means that Senate seat is empty also. Now, with the majority being split the way it is, that there's a lot of things that could happen there, and we could end up, we get the White House and we lose the Senate again.
Yep. And that's, to me, that's politics.
Yeah, but I just think if you're...
It's all a chess game. It's all moving, and they all have to make those choices. What I do like about Rubio is that he said, I'm not going to run for Senate again. Boom, now we know. Yeah, now the GOP can get people in place to take that seat, should need be.
Well, my concession...
What I don't like is trying to do... is running...
My
sort
concession,
of hedging your bets.
Yeah. My concession with Rubio is should he win the nomination, I will vote for him. So the only Republican I will not vote for under any circumstances would be Jeb Bush.
Uh-huh.
I will not. I just will not. I am so tired of the Bush family. I'm so tired of what they represent. I wouldn't do it. I'd rather have Hillary.
John, I think you're going to be really safe.
Yeah. I'm just tired. I'm tired of it.
The
just
odds of him being the nominee, he's in asterisk land right now.
Yeah, yeah. He's getting ready to join Lindsey Graham at the local winery. So. Yeah. Okay, we're going to go to a break here. It's time for the Edwards Notebook. We're coming up top of the hour. We're going to pay some bills, and we'll be back with Karen Sigmund from Rage Against the Media. I'm your host, John Matthews. You're listening to the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back.
Black Lives Matter gumps and Missouri protesters are making Stalin and Soloninsky proud. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, one of the methods of those seeking to fundamentally change America from the land of the free into the home of the oppressed is through public unrest and outright distortions of truth. The University of Missouri protesters purposely lied about so-called oppression from the white man and white privilege. So they decided to disrupt the campus learning environment and go on and on about racism. They were so effective that both the university president and chancellor resigned after the football players joined the protests, refusing to participate in games unless the president, Tim Wolf, resigned over racial tensions. One of the protesters even claimed that he grew up oppressed until it was discovered he comes from a wealthy family of privilege. Those Alinsky lackeys need to be met with the full resistance of those of us who are not ready or willing to simply allow our republic to be turned into a third world land of losers. We can start by seeing to it that the University of Missouri football players lose their athletic scholarships and go back home where they came from. I'm Ron Edwards.
You can catch all our archives from Real Conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
And we're back, and you're listening to the Conservative Syndicate, Real Conservative Talk from Real Conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with my co-host, Joe Hakos, who's off this week. He'll be back next week, recovering from feeling a little bit under the weather earlier in the week. I say, hey, just take the week off. I've got Karen Sigmund from Rage Against the Media with us right now, and I want to... I guess personally here, just thank you, Karen, for being part of our show this year. You're one of the reasons we went from 10,000 listeners a month to over 1 million this year. By the end, we're getting numbers in now. We surpassed 1 million listeners this year, and a lot of it has to do with the likes of you and Don Dix and some of the other people on the panel here. So kudos, my good friend.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor to be part of it. That's really thrilling. What terrific numbers, and you absolutely deserve it. So smart, insightful, funny, and very engaging. It's been a real pleasure.
All right. Well, you left out good looking, but I'll pass.
It's radio, but yes, and good looking, of course.
Yeah, I am the best looking guy on radio. That's for sure. So. And like I like to say, between me and Rush Limbaugh, we make $30 million a year, too. So. Anyway, back to our list here. Top 10 liberal quotes here. We're going to go rather fast because I want to get into the conservative ones. And the reason why is that my top 3 conservative quotes for the year actually deal with the media. And that's what Karen deals with at Rage Against the Media. She's one of these people that's out there watching the media, calling them to be accountable for what they do or what they don't do. 6 of one, half a dozen the other. Probably more about what they don't do rather than what they do. But that we'll talk about that later. But anyway, we were just talking about Jeb Bush here. I'll say because he makes number 7 on our list here. And I just want to preface his quote with this. I was reading an article last night. I believe it was on Washington Post. And they were talking about the candidates, the 5 candidates that will be left standing after the first primary in February, which I believe Iowa is the first one, and then New Hampshire follows that. Mm-hmm. And they were saying at that point there's going to be more dwindling of the field. And the 5 candidates that will remain standing, and they went ahead and named them. I think it was Trump, Cruz, Christie, Rubio, and I don't forget who the other one. Maybe Carson. I think Carson might have been the other one. And then they talked about the ones that were going to be dropping out. But, they never mentioned Jeb Bush or John Kasich in the article at all. And I thought that was quite remarkable, but it says so much about what happened to the Jeb Bush campaign from the very beginning. This guy has been a non-entity from the start. What do you think?
Yeah, well, Kasich, that they would leave him off doesn't surprise me at all. Who remembers Kasich? And I'm glad Governor Pataki has dropped out, whatever the word. Yeah, well, they didn't even. Well, they didn't mention just one fewer to. That people want to have a podium, a soapbox on which to have their say. I understand that up to a point. Now seems to be that point where more need to be just receding from all of this. Kasich is one of them. Every time he speaks, I absolutely cringe. It is interesting that Jeb Bush, he was neither mentioned as one of the ones who would leave or one of the 5. I don't imagine he would be one of the 5 to stay. He is around 3%. I don't know that Carson will be in the top 5. He seems to be declining pretty quickly.
Right.
But anything can happen between now and then.
Yeah.
For all we know, if Trump loses big in Iowa, which is possible, it's possible. It may be that he takes that. Now, obviously, a number of things could happen. It may be that he takes that as, I'm going to take my ball and go home, or it could be, you guys didn't treat me fairly, I'm going to do this, that, or the other thing. Or he could react gracefully and say, okay, I'm going to try harder with the ground game in New Hampshire. Unlikely, but possible.
Yeah. So, I agree. Anything is still feasible at this point. I just thought it was noteworthy that they're talking about why Rand Paul won't be there and why Huckabee and Santorum won't be there, and they don't even mention Bush or Kasich. I thought that was really
is something. But Santorum.
Yeah. Maybe maybe whoever wrote the article forgot they were running. I don't know. It's just anyway. What we're going to do here, I got to do this.
Yes.
This is our short segment. I've got to run a commercial here. And then when we come back, we'll get into number 7, and we're going to go through. I promise to have these done before we reach the bottom of the hour because I want to get into the conservative stuff.
Right.
I'm very biased when it comes to these things. On the liberal side, I always like the idiocy. On the conservative side, I always like the intelligence, and that's just bias. If you don't like it, then get your own show. But that's what we do here. So We'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
Catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers. If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Hey, we're back, and you're listening to the Conservative Syndicate. I want to remind everybody, you want to pick this show up or any of our shows for 2015, or in fact, any year that we've been on the air since 2007, you can go to our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, and find them all there, and you find everything you want to know about our panel, the people on it. And one of those people, of course, right now is Karen Sigmund from Rage Against the Media. And what we're going to do from this point on, there's going to be no further commercial interruptions. We're going to go straight through from this point because I want to make sure that we get everything in here. It's kind of a lengthy list when it comes to liberal stuff. I think, when I write these lists, I keep thinking, okay, I'm just going to say this is what the quote is and then give 25 words or less on it. But that's not my nature. I can't do anything in 25 words or less. So it just doesn't work out that way. All right, number 7 on our list, and I'm going to get Karen's take. I know this is going to be one of her favorite topics here. Jeb Bush. Commenting on Common Core education standards in one of the debates, he says, if we are going to compete in this world, in the world we're in today, there's no possible way we can do it with lowering expectations and dumbing down everything. Children are going to suffer, and families' hearts are going to be broken that their kids won't be able to get a job in the 21st century. And now that's his response to people revealing the fact that he is a big supporter of Common Core, which we know is the process of dumbing down education. What's your take on this, Karen?
I think the quote is exactly right. If the Common Core is the answer, doesn't seem to be the case. But I think his words are, outside of the context of Common Core, he's exactly right. If we're going to compete, we've got to raise expectations. Children are going to suffer. Families' hearts are going to be broken. They are being broken right now. Mm-hmm. Their kids aren't able to get jobs in the 21st century. It is criminal what's going on in the schools. Common Core is not the answer. No. I mean, and here's one of the biggest supporters of Common Core telling us that dumbing down the kids is not a bad thing, or not a good thing. We've spent hours on this show examining and revealing and exposing what Common Core is. And if there's ever been a program designed to dumb down the curriculum, this is it. Well, as you know, I do see it a little bit differently, but we can move on the quotes. I don't know that Common Core itself, that the standards of Common Core dumbed down. But I do think that Washington should not be where standards come from. Yeah, now what do you think about the move by Washington? They just passed a bill
that says basically the federal government is not going to dictate to the states anymore how to educate children. And I cannot see that. I cannot see that happening. I cannot see the federal government conceding to let the states determine how they're going to educate.
No, and they'll say it's your choice, but we won't give you money if you choose to not do it. It's really very simple.
Yeah. It's kind of like the John Kasich thing. We'd love to defund Planned Parenthood, but then they'll take away our Medicaid money.
Right. And this is where Washington is brilliant, and you need governors willing to stand up against it, which the governor of Texas has stood up against Common Core, and a number of them, saying, we're going to do our own standards, thank you very much. And if it means you're not going to give us money, then you're not going to give us money. But we will not be bribed by you.
Right.
Where Kasich went the other way, we're going to be bribed by you, and we're going to cave.
And what choice do we have? I mean, there's a Republican for you today. What choice do we have? It's already been predetermined.
Right. Well, yes. Yep.
Okay. I'm going to combine number 6 and number 5 together because I don't want to give Lindsey Graham too much airtime.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. But Senator Mark Kirk, representative out of Illinois, was caught off mic making a comment about Lindsey Graham. He's a bro with no hoe, meaning referring to, I guess, the fact that Lindsey Graham is not married. And, of course, it ties into what Lindsey Graham commented, I guess, after one of the debates. He was asked, I think he might even said it during the debate, that the first thing I'm going to do as president, we're going to drink more. That could be why he doesn't have a wife.
Yep.
Now, I can't help but think that he's had one too many in the fact that this man still thinks he's a relevant force in the Republican Party.
It is very odd.
Is he not? Is he not one of the oddest people you've listened to?
He really is. He's a throwback to an era that most of us would rather forget. But he's very, very, very pro our military, and as a voice for that, I like him.
Well,
but
I look at him in terms of being...
to give up his spot on the stage. We're done. You're not going to make it. Just go.
I look at him as being pro-military as actually a political thing with him because he's a neocon. He just believes in just bombing the hell out of everybody. And I'm not so sure that it's so much about military as to what the military provides him in terms of political fodder. I could be wrong on that. I don't see him as in any way, shape, or form representative of a decent human being. So I just have a tendency to think the worst of anything he says or does.
Yeah, fair enough. He's gone. He's in the asterisk land. We need to get him. Moving on from Lindsey Graham.
And I often wonder if what has happened over the years, has he become a bad influence on John McCain, or has John McCain become a bad influence on him?
Yep. Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Yeah. I like that. I got to do something with that. That's good. All right, number 4. Comes from Hillary Clinton. Like I said, she made the list a few times here because I intentionally left Barack Obama off because I think he's irrelevant. Regardless of what he's doing, he's still irrelevant. I didn't want to give him airtime. Hillary Clinton, when she was asked about how she would not be an Obama version 3.0, what makes you different? And why would we not expect another term like Barack Obama? And she says, well, I think that's pretty obvious. I think being the first woman president would be quite a change from the presidents we've had up until this point, including President Obama. Well, there's probably one of the dumbest things you could say.
Unbelievable, because I have different private parts.
Yeah.
Really.
And I guess because
that our first woman president could be somebody who thinks that way is so appalling to me as a woman.
Well, just the idea that she thinks that is significant enough to be different.
It's unbelievable. They asked her a question that they would ask anybody, treating her as anybody, right?
Yeah.
All I want to do is be treated no differently from anybody else. I'm just as qualified as any man, blah, blah, blah. What makes me different? That I have different private parts.
Yeah, I'm thinking if that's their train of thought here, if it's all about gender, why don't we nominate Bruce Jenner?
Sure, get both bases covered, or neither, or I don't know. I don't want to think about Bruce Jenner.
Well, I'm thinking, if this is how we're going to identify differences,
right?
You don't get much more different than that.
How is it possible that a woman running for president identifies herself in a political context by her gender?
Yeah,
this is such a throwback. This is not how a modern woman, which is what women say they want. And if they want a woman president, they want a woman who feels like she's the best person for the job. I can do this. I'm just as qualified. Blah blah blah. Not vote for me, as her daughter said, because it's time to have a woman president. This is nuts.
Right. If that's the only thing we're looking at. See, I'm kind of surprised why she's not marketing herself as the first female black president. Since Bill Clinton was actually our first black president, why she's not, marketing herself that way, and that's just the sarcastic side of me coming out, which is not hard to do when I talk about Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Okay, number 3. I want to go to number 3 because
Yep.
2 out of the last 3 here actually belong to Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton got number 4. It's obvious that because she's a woman, she'd be different than Obama. Okay. A liberal would grasp that. I can see a liberal going, yeah, that's right. Okay. Number 3. Again, Hillary Clinton in a debate, the last debate, or November 17th debate, when she was the critics were pointing out her hypocrisy and the fact that Planned Parenthood is the nation's largest abortion provider. During the debate, Hillary Clinton said, "Every child deserves the opportunity to live up to their God-given potential." And here we are, one of the biggest supporters of Planned Parenthood. And what made it even more ironic, if you want to use that word, is that Planned Parenthood retweeted that on their Twitter account, that every child deserves the opportunity to live up to their God-given potential. And here we have the largest abortion provider in the country being supported by the largest supporter of abortion in the country, Hillary Clinton, claiming that children have the right to live up to their God-given potential. Now, how much more twisted does that get?
It really doesn't. And I'm sitting here in just such dejected and stunned silence that you noted it, I noted it, other people on the right see this, and people on the left are going, yeah, because it's...
Yeah, how is it, Karen? I can't get my head around how somebody, if you have the IQ as seaweed, you should be able to hear something like this, put it in context, and say, how do these people just rattle this stuff off with no sense of remorse or remembrance as to what they actually represent?
I don't know. Oh, you just add hashtag women's health. And there you go. Right? That what Planned Parenthood does in killing, dismembering unborn children, or sometimes even born children, is it's a women's health issue, and they're empowering women to have their opportunity to live up to their God-given. That's how they excuse it. That's the twistedness. This is women's health. And this is women's rights to live up to their God-given potential. Nothing about how you just killed someone to bring that about.
We covered last week, or the last few weeks, a couple of stories. One of them was a surrogate mother over in England who was being, the people that she was carrying the child for demanded that she have an abortion because she was found to be with twins. And they decided they didn't want twins. And now the surrogate mother is saying because she has twins and she won't abort one of them, that the family has refused now to go through with the deal. So she's suing him, saying, I'm not going to abort the children because I can't do that. I can't, in my good conscience, I can't kill these children. But these people now want to renege on the deal because they only want one kid. See, that's how twisted
are these people. That's how twisted
this stuff gets. Or the other woman, another one over in England, who actually won and took it to court and got an order, although I don't think she went through with it, an order to kill her baby, her 6-month-old baby, because the abortion didn't happen the way it was supposed to, and the baby was born. And she was saying because she had the abortion and just because it didn't succeed, she should not be forced to take the child. And it got tied up in court for 6 months. And then the court finally came down and said, well, if you want to do that, you can do it. Now, I don't know if she did it or not, but that's how twisted this gets. It's just phenomenally twisted how people see. This is what happens when you take away all moral compass and moral gauge of anything. It's just like it's whatever you want it to be.
It is whatever you want it to be.
Yeah,
pro-choice.
It's amazing.
We all knew pro-choice at a certain point was going to be okay. Yeah. Not aborting at 12 weeks, not at 20 weeks, not at now it's 40 weeks. Now it's post-birth.
Yeah, right. That's where it's coming. That's where it's running to. All right, let's get to number 2 here. We got a few minutes left here. Number 2.
Let's make it happier. Can we go a little happier? That was horrible.
I'm sorry?
Oh, my word. Nope, looks bad. It's Bernie Sanders.
Well, this one I find is actually one of the funniest quotes of the year for me, is listening to Bernie Sanders continually try to redefine what democratic socialism is. And when I first heard this quote, the first thing I thought of was Tina Fey on Saturday Night Live, and I'll relay that to you in a minute here. In the debate, Bernie Sanders had been asked to define democratic socialism, or actually he was at a college, St. Anselm's College in New Hampshire on September 9th of this year, and there was a question from the audience to define democratic socialism. He says, I talked to a guy from Denmark, and he said in Denmark it's very hard to become very, very rich, but it's pretty hard to be very, very poor. And that makes a lot of sense to me. So that was his definition of democratic socialism.
Yeah.
In the debate, he went on to say something like, it means having a government which represents all the people rather than just the wealthiest people. And basically what it is Bernie Sanders thinks that everything that prosperity and opportunity provides should actually be a right. That's really, if you really kind of take it down to its core, that's what he's trying to say. He just hasn't figured out how to say it. But I find it pretty funny that he says, well, I talked to a guy in Denmark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the extent of it. What comes out of that man's mouth is so unbelievably ignorant. What was the one, why can you refinance your house at 3% but school is 6%? Yeah. How do you get to that age? How can you be a senator and be so ignorant of basic economics?
Well, I guess when you have Howard Dean for your governor, it says a lot about the people who elect you.
Fair enough. Okay. But really, all you have to do is Google troop conditions in Denmark. This is not just talking to a guy from Denmark, but seeing all the realities of what's going on in Denmark. And it is ugly.
Yeah, well, the thing that reminded me, I immediately flashed on Tina Fey making fun of Sarah Palin. I can see Russia from my porch.
Yeah.
It was like, this guy told me about what it is.
He's his own parody.
So it's kind of like that, you know.
He's his own parody. He really is. It's hard to say things stupider than what he says.
And then on top of it, this is what I love about it. Denmark, the people in Denmark actually responded to this. Let's see who this Danish Prime Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen said. He was upset. He said, I'd like to make one thing clear. Denmark is far from a socialist plan economy. Denmark is a market economy. And so he was upset. He was basically telling Bernie Sanders, you don't know what you're talking about in terms of comparing Denmark to a socialist country. He says here, Rasmussen acknowledged that the Nordic model is an expanded welfare state, which is socialistic, which provides a high level of security to its citizens. But he also noted that it is a successful market economy with much freedom to pursue your dreams and live your okay. Well, that's socialist talk. But the point being is they were upset that he used them as an example.
Yep. Hilarious. You just can't make this stuff up. You really can't.
Well, I've yet to hear him give a textbook definition of what democratic socialism is. It's kind of like Denmark. It's kind of like Sweden.
Yep.
You know,
that's basically what he says. He doesn't say anything more concrete than that.
No.
Nor do his followers.
No.
They just say, you know, it's what they have over in Europe. Isn't everything great over there?
Yeah.
Well,
and when you look at what's going on over in Europe, you've got to wonder. What I guess, like you said, all you have to do is, if you looked at the internet every day, you'd see that Europe is crumbling also.
Yep. And the strongest European countries are the ones with the strongest the freest market economy.
Well, right now, I guess over there, Germany is basically holding everything together.
That's correct, and has been for a while. And people were worried when they absorbed, it's 20 years ago, absorbed East Germany, that the very strong West Germany would somehow not be able to absorb all the poverty and decrepitude over in the East. And they did. They absorbed it, and now Germany is, with a little bit of a hiccup.
Yeah.
I
have a very good friend. In fact, my best friend. We have been friends since high school. He moved over to Germany about 30 years ago. We met in German class, actually. We took German together. And it was fun in high school to be able to talk to each other in a language that nobody else understood. And we just developed a very close friendship. Now, he's very progressive in his thinking. He ribs me all the time. We rib each other all the time about our ideologies. Because he once said to me, didn't you register as a Democrat the first time we went to register to vote? When we went at 18, we went and registered for the draft, and we registered to vote. And I said, well, yeah, in those days I was very anti-Nixon, so I did. But I never voted in that election. I never voted. I didn't vote until after I got out of the military, because by then I really began to understand what it means to be an American. And I'm always trying to tell them, man, you keep talking about America like back when Nixon was around. It's not America anymore. And he has a hard time grasping it. But
yeah.
He's running a grassroots campaign over in Germany he's running for president of the United States over there. He's just like, well, just elect me and I'll fix it all. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Okay. All right, let's get to number one here. This one, again, I don't know how anybody thinks Hillary Clinton has any level of intelligence on anything. Number one quote, Hillary Clinton responding to a reporter's question about her wiped servers in Las Vegas, Nevada, August 18th of this year. She was asked, did you wipe your servers clean? And her response was, what, like with a cloth or something?
Mind-blowing.
So.
Yeah. And she said it with such a bizarre sort of disdain mixed with I'm being funny, mixed with I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It was so dismissive overall.
Yeah, you would have expected her to break into that cackling hen laugh.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, that thing sends chills up my spine. I'm like, somebody shoot me, please.
Horrendous. And people really... how... I cannot... If you were a Democrat, what kind of suspension of all kinds of logic and reason... I mean, even more than with Obama. How can you possibly... What kind of... calisthenics do you have to do in your head?
Well, the way I put it is, it takes a special brand of messed up to be a Democrat these days. I mean, if you're it falls in three categories. You're either a misinformed person, you're a non-informed person, or you're an underinformed person. There's a combination of the three that makes up the Democratic base. So those are our top liberal, progressive, rhino quotes for the year. I want to get over here to the other side, the 10 best conservative quotes for 2015. And like I said, if you think I'm being biased, I am. I am biased. I never hide my bias. That's why I do the show the way I do it.
Wait.
I'm sorry?
This isn't the Liberal Syndicate? I'm on the wrong show?
No, I tell them if you want objective commentary, start your own show.
Yeah.
I'm a narrow-minded. People say you're so narrow-minded. Yes, I am. You're so biased. Yes, I am.
Yeah. Yep. But for a reason. There's a reason.
There's a reason.
Anyway, yes. Number 10.
Because I'm right. I got this T-shirt. Somebody gave me this T-shirt. It says, "I'm not arguing. I'm just explaining why I'm right." Yeah. So, number 10. I just sent you this list. Did I not, Karen?
Yep, I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, great. Because when my lips kick in at this portion of the show, I sometimes sound like George Bush. Number 10, there's a reason why the Democratic Party has lost the House, the Senate, governorships, and more than 900 state legislative seats in recent years. President Obama's liberal agenda has left America's working class families behind. Now, what I found remarkable about this comment, it was said by other people, but the fact that this was said by John Boehner's spokesman, Corey Fritz, in response to Obama at a Democratic National Committee meeting, saying that the Republicans were basically copying his economic agenda. And he comes out and says, that John Boehner's spokesman obviously sounds like he has more conservative sense about him than the man he was the spokesman for.
It's a great quote. And that it's from Boehner's spokesperson is shocking. But this is a point that every one of us should be making all the time. Mm-hmm. That his liberal agenda has hurt America's working class. We don't say it enough.
And
his Republican policies help the working class, that the left's policies hurt the working class and minorities and the youth and any group you can think of, women, everybody. It's hurt everybody. It's hurt the poor. It may have hurt the rich, may not have hurt the rich. I don't know. But certainly any group that the Democrats pretend to care about, it's hurt them.
Well, it's certainly when we look at it in terms of the overall effect and everything else, as you said, it may have hurt the rich, but the rich are rich for a reason, because they figure out how to work around this stuff. They lose some money, they figure out how to get it back.
Right.
I don't think you could tax the rich out of their wealth, because they just figure out how to make it back. That's why they're rich.
And it doesn't. Who would it benefit to tax the rich out of their wealth? It's nonsense.
I get it.
And our side needs to be much clearer that liberal policies hurt Americans, that conservative policies help Americans.
And I think that to drive your point home right there, reflective of the fact that the context of this quote by Corey Fritz, John Boehner's spokesperson, is that the Democrats lost the Senate.
Yes.
They lost the House. They've lost state legislature seats. They have lost governorships. Now, you can't tell me that somebody, at least somewhere, has figured out that Barack Obama is not good for America.
Yep.
Okay, there's our hope. There's our hope that at least perhaps at the state level we can restore some level of state sovereignty and perhaps just be able to negate everything that the federal government's doing. I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if it's reversible at this point, but damn, we need to keep trying to do it, So, okay, let's go to number 9. I thought this was actually a great quote. I just found this. I didn't know that it took place, but I thought it was great.
It's true. Yep.
Right after Barack Obama came out and gave his I Defend All Islam speech after the San Bernardino shootings out here just a few weeks ago, Tom Cotton, representative out of Arkansas, was quoted as saying, President Obama is a wartime president who doesn't seem to realize it. I thought,
that is just startlingly insightful.
I want to read the complete quote here and get your take on what he says here, Karen. He says, President Obama is a wartime president who doesn't seem to realize it. 14 Americans were slaughtered by Islamic terrorists, but the president is dangerously detached from reality, lecturing us about political correctness and an ineffective gun control. Radical Islamic jihadists are not contained, are advancing on every front, killing innocent citizens or civilians from California to Paris to Mali, blowing an airplane out of the sky in Egypt and inflaming the entire Middle East from Tehran. Imagine if these terrorists get their hands on uranium instead of gunpowder. Radical Islam is at war with America. Our only choice is to win or lose, and the longer we debate whether we're at war, the closer we come to losing it. One cannot help but wonder how many more Americans will die before President Obama recognizes this fundamental truth. He must implement a real strategy to defeat the Islamic State and remove Bashar al-Assad, take the handcuffs off our military in Iraq and Syria, and restore and strengthen vital intelligence programs. We needed to hear from a president tonight how to win this war, but we only heard how we will continue losing it. Very
Absolutely.
profound statement.
The only thing that I wonder what if this part is true, if he doesn't realize it, or if he completely does understand what's going on.
Well, you and I are on the same page there.
And is accepting of it, is refusing to do what needs to be done, because winning against Islamic terrorism is something he's not at all interested in.
Yeah, you and I are exactly on the same page, because this is something I keep presenting. This is one of the reasons I think Republicans lose it or miss it, is because they seem to still be under the impression that Barack Obama just doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
And there couldn't be anything farther from the truth. This man knows exactly what he's doing. He came into office knowing exactly what he wanted to accomplish, and he's doing it.
And he's been all too successful. And who did he chastise in his little speech after San Bernardino? Americans. We need to be nicer to Muslims. It's bad guns. It's right. We were chastised.
Yep.
We were chastised.
Right.
This was not the speech of, as Senator Cotton notes, of a wartime president. This is not the speech of an American president. What Senator Cotton just said, or his representative, not congressman, should have those words were the right words to have said. I heard Rubio. I think I also heard Cruz, not to leave him out, speaking after San Bernardino. Those were the kinds of speeches one expects from the President of the United States of America.
Right.
Not that garbage that we heard.
Right.
That was so appalling, making us out to be the bad guys.
It has been my contention for quite a while now that what President Barack Obama is seeking to accomplish, especially in his second term, is filling his resume so that he can apply for the position of the head of the UN. I think that's where Barack Obama is going for global domination.
Yep, I agree.
And that's what all this is about. This is about saying, I'm the bridge builder, and America is just a means to an end for him. I think a lot of it is such psychopathically inherent to who he is. I think it's more about a self-esteem issue. Stuff like that. I do put him on par with people like Hitler in terms of their thinking, in terms of how they see themselves. And I'm not saying he's a Nazi. I'm just saying
right.
The same
but he's a megalomaniac. He's a demagogue.
Yeah.
He's driven by a world view that has him at the center.
Yeah, a legend in his own mind is the words I like to use. Speaking of Nazism, let's go to number 8 here. This comes from Thomas Sowell, one of my favorite conservative commentators. I love this guy. He says, many Americans who say that we should learn from other people, especially Europeans, mean that we should imitate what they did. That may make those who talk this way feel superior to other Americans, but let us never forget that the most disastrous ideologies of the 20th century, communism, fascism, and Nazism, all originated in Europe, and so did both world wars. That's out of Thomas Sowell. I think just a fantastic commentator.
Yes.
He writes a lot for National Review, but he's a good. I mean, he nails this stuff. He is one of the most brilliant people out there, an economist, but so much more than that. Yeah, and just reading these three here that we just read here, and compare this to what we hear from the liberal side. Yeah, and I'm like, how can anybody not see the logic? Even if you want to be biased and subjective, the logic of these things is logical. When I first got on Facebook, and I had a lot of liberal friends because a lot of people I knew in the real world were liberal, and I hadn't made the number of Facebook friends of conservatives then at that point. But I would post things by Thomas Sowell, by Victor Davis Hanson, by a handful of the really brilliant right-thinking minds. Mm-hmm. And I'd say to my friends, my liberal friends, I get that these are on the right. Who is on the left whose thinking is it all on par? Tell me, educate me. Who should I be reading on the left that's as intelligent, as reasoned, as logical, as true, as real as these people? And there was never an answer. Why? Because there isn't an answer. Oh, I think there is. Krugman, for heaven's sake. I think there is one person that represents and articulates progressive ideology better than anybody else, and it has to be Sal Alinsky. Okay. Now I don't agree with anything the man says in terms of what he seeks to obtain, but his strategies and rules work. Yep. No, you're absolutely right. And if there's somebody that can sit there and say, this is what we do, and this is why we do it, that would be the man in my book. The problem is that it's all wrong. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. I mean, it's all wrong in terms of what it actually accomplishes. The idea is, okay, it's their version of equality, their version of everything being fair, but that's not what it comes down to, because it's still, every one of those rules is simply a matter of learning how to objectify and rule over somebody else. Yep. And so therefore, but you cannot discount the fact that what he says is true, and Obama has proven it. Yeah. It's very effective. Yep, you're absolutely right. To our demise and to our detriment, but it is the truth. Okay, let's go to Ben Shapiro, another one of my favorite commentators out of National Review. Number 7, Republican leaders believe the goal of the Republican Party is to gain and maintain power. Conservatives believe the goal of the Republican Party is to represent conservative interests no matter what comes. The Republican Party has become an excellent vehicle for the former goal and a smoking garbage heap when it comes to the latter. That's Ben Shapiro out of National Review. This so well sums up what we've been saying on this show now for quite a while. There is no difference anymore between Republicans and Democrats in terms of what their objectives are. The only difference is the method by which they go about getting it. Now, I know you would probably disagree with that to a point, because... I would. Yep. That's okay. Well, why do you disagree? I don't think their goals are the same. I do believe that, yes, the nature of Washington is such that one develops a sort of ruling class mentality, regardless. But I think that's more because of no term limits, because of the seductive nature of power, and because people, when they hang around people of the same, you just sort of wind up
in an echo chamber.
Okay, but how does that detract from what Shapiro is saying here? We're not talking about it, the influence and the
because I don't think that that's the goal of the Republican Party. I think individuals, when they get sucked into Washington, individuals may go along to get along, but I don't think that you can say that about the Republican Party.
You don't think that they're not going along?
I don't. I think some individuals are more susceptible to that seduction than others.
Well, I wouldn't paint the Republican Party with a broad brush and say everybody would fall under this categorization by Ben Shapiro. But enough of them have that we sit here today wondering what the hell happened to the Republican Party. See, that's my thing here. It's that Shapiro is saying here there are two objectives here. The Republican Party, the Republican leaders, meaning the establishment, want to gain and maintain power. Conservatives in the Republican Party want to represent conservative interests. Now, the Republican Party has become excellent in doing the former, meaning gaining and maintaining power, but not so good at doing what? Representing conservative interests. So how can we look at that and not look at today's Republican Party and say that Ben Shapiro is off the mark?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't really disagree with what he said, but the idea that what you said, that Democrats and Republicans have the same goals, that's the part I disagree with.
Okay, I guess let me paraphrase it this way. It seems to me that the end game for both Republicans and Democrats is the expansion of government. It's just how it's going to expand and who is going to be the people that expand it. Because everything, take for instance Obamacare, rather than coming at it and saying we need to repeal Obamacare and turn it back over to the private sector where it belongs, what do we hear from people like Paul Ryan? We need to present our version of Obamacare. See, the government, it's not that Obamacare is bad in the fact that the government's involved in it. It's just it's a bad program the way it's designed. But we need to design a better program. You're just telling me you want to expand it a different way.
Well, it depends on what that other program is.
Oh, yeah. But see, they don't articulate that.
Right. And that's absolutely true. And this is really where we fail is that articulation.
Right. Now, Paul Ryan came back and said the way we do this, now even if let's take the argument he's presented in the past. If the way we do this is to set aside grants to states in order for them to implement their own healthcare systems, that's been his solution in the past. That still involves government, and it's still involvement with the government.
That's federal government involved. Back to the Common Core kinds of things. That's exactly wrong as well.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It's like hand that money back to the taxpayers and let the states do what they want to do at the initiative of the residents of that state.
Yep. It's got to be bottom up, not top down.
Right.
But nobody's.
So that's why I say it the way that I'm saying it. Is it's because it doesn't. It just sounds to me like they want the same thing. We got to move on here.
Yep.
We're running out of time here. Okay, number 6. We can go through some of these pretty fast. From Scott Walker. This is during one of the Republican debates. It's sad to think right now, but probably the Russian and Chinese governments know more about Hillary Clinton's email server than do the members of the United States Congress.
Stunning and true, and
Stunning and
shocking.
true. Okay.
And the Democrats don't care. Boggles my mind.
Yeah. Now, this one I love, too. We're going to go down to number 5. I'm going to read through these pretty fast until we get down to number 2 and number 1. The gentleman who wrote the Constitution did not get around to enfranchising women or abolishing slavery, but they snuck in a constitutional right to gay marriage that we've somehow overlooked for 228 years or so. No mentally functional adult, regardless of his views on gay marriage, should be expected to pretend that that is true. This is Kevin Williamson, who wrote an article in National Review, Ayatollah Roberts and his Sharia Council. This is on the ruling of same-sex marriage by a Supreme Court.
He is one of the most brilliant writers out there.
Is he not? Is he not? This guy is just on it. I like this one. Let's go number 4.
Yep.
Laura Ingraham at CPAC this year. The idea that we should hold a coronation for Jeb Bush because 50 rich families decided who best represents their interests. No way, Jose.
Yep.
I love this. Okay, now I want to get to these last three here because we're getting short on time here, and I want to make sure. In fact, if I go a little bit over, I'm going to do that. But I want to get this done. Number three, the last three all have to do with the media. Folks, Brian Williams isn't the exception. He's exactly what they've taught us to expect from them at all. It's not journalism anymore. It's entertainment, it's celebrity, it's agendas, and it's money. All too often, a lie is now an acceptable way of communicating to the media. A lie has as much value as the truth. This is Wayne Lapierre, Executive Vice President of the National Rifle Association at CPAC in March of this year. Quick comment on that, Karen.
Brilliant. He's absolutely right. He's exactly right.
All right. Number two, modern journalism is all about deciding which facts the public shouldn't know because they might reflect badly on Democrats. This is Jim Treacher, who's a blogger at the Daily Caller.
Yep, exactly. They decide for us what we should and shouldn't know, and it's all about protecting the left. Right.
I remember earlier this year we did a series on this, and I quoted out of a Vox article, not Fox, Confessions of a Clinton Reporter, the media's 5 unspoken rules for covering Hillary. I'll read you this quick quote. The act of choosing time and again to go after the same person has the effect of tainting that person, even when an investigation or reporting turns up nothing nefarious and it's time not spent digging into his or her adversaries. The original source of alleged malfeasance could come from the other party, within a politician's party, or from the reporter's own observations and industrious digging. But two things are crystal clear. If there's no investigation, there's no scandal. And if there's no scandal, there's no scalp.
Yep.
It's a confession from a liberal reporter telling you that this is why they do what they do, is to hang scalps. And it doesn't matter whether the stuff is true or not. Doesn't matter where it comes from. You play it out until you get what you want.
Or you don't. And that's why Hillary is continued to get off scot-free.
Right.
Right? This is the opposite is true of choosing time and again to not go after the same person so that you don't taint that person.
Right.
Even when there is something nefarious.
Yeah. Number one, Ted Cruz. The question asked in this debate illustrate why the American people don't trust the media. This is not a cage match. And you look at the questions. Donald Trump, are you a comic book villain? Ben Carson, can you do math? John Kasich, will you insult 2 people over here? Marco Rubio, why don't you resign? Jeb Bush, why have your numbers falling? How about talking about the substantive issues? And Carl, I'm not finished yet. The contrast with the Democratic debate, where every thought and question from the media is, which of you is more handsome and why?
Exactly.
Couldn't have summed that up better with Ted Cruz.
That was a stellar moment.
Any closing comments, Karen?
Great quotes that you've compiled. Horrific from the Democrats. If I were a Democrat, I couldn't be a Democrat. One of my quotes is, if the truth were relevant to the left, there would be no left. I think that should be up there. And my other quote is, the media is intended to be an inoculant against tyranny, not its delivery system. And I think that should be up there next year, too. I think both of those quotes indicate why we're in such a mess.
Yeah.
The truth is irrelevant. They will do whatever they can, dishonestly, however they do it, to advance their agenda. We do try to seek the truth. And that's what you do in your job, what I do in my job. And without people like you, your show, me, what I do, we'd really be completely sunk because they are masters at deception. Yes. We need to be out there getting the truth out there.
Couldn't agree more. And as this year closes out, I just hope next year we have more of an influence. We reach a bigger crowd. We reach a bigger audience. And that people actually start paying attention to what's going on here, because this next election, I think, is going to decide it all. It is. I can't think of anything more important in our history right now than what's going to happen next year. Karen, I want to thank you so much again for being part of our team here. I couldn't do a lot of this without you. I've leaned on you a lot over the past and probably will lean on you more in the future.
Well, it's been my pleasure, John, really.
But God bless you, dear.
Talk to you next year.
You have a good New Year's, and we'll talk to you next year.
Right. Thank you.
All right, guys. We're done for the year, and we'll be back on Monday at 3 p.m. out here in the West Coast, to 6 p.m. out in the East Coast. You all have a safe holiday, New Year's, and get ready for next year because we're going to hit the floor running. God bless you all. God love you. We'll talk to you soon.
Tuning in to this edition of the Conservative Syndicate, the globally syndicated, politically incorrect talk show that seeks to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We want to make you aware you can find and access all of our show archives at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, as well as our broadcast stations and times. That's the conservativesyndicate.net. We so appreciate you taking time to tune in, and we so look forward to continuing to bring you the best and uncompromised talk radio available on the net today. And remember, folks, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. I'm John Matthews, signing off until next time, right here on the Conservative Syndicate. God bless you, and may God continue to bless America.